Good morning. During the declared emergency, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and in-person attendance limitations. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by their computers, a phone or tablet app, or by telephone. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. Any registered participants will be participating by audio only. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called on to speak. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that applies to property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure you include your name, address, and email address, because Committee of Adjustment and the TLAB will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with our decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, LPAT. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. I will be calling each item in the order listed on the agenda today. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5 minutes. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee of the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised to ensure the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then individuals, either in support or opposed, will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant agent has an opportunity to rebut those issues raised by the speakers. That will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. I require a motion to confirm the minutes of the last meeting. Do we have, Joanne, can you bring a motion?
The minutes were confirmed.
Yes, Aaron?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to move a motion to confirm the minutes of the last meeting.
Aaron, second. You're muted, Aaron. All right, all in favor? Last minutes meetings are confirmed. Any declarations of interest on the items in this morning's list? None for the staff. Okay. Jacob, do you know of any deferral requests or files to be closed? Okay.
Item 1 was scheduled to be considered today, but there was a letter requesting that the file be withdrawn and closed. I believe the agent is here today and can address that.
Yeah. Okay, so number 1, 58 Heathdale Road. The purpose of this application is to construct a 3-story detached house with an integral garage and rear third floor terrace. We have before us on this application material submitted by the applicant, email correspondence from engineering, staff reports from Toronto and Region Conservation Authority, Urban Forestry, and 9 form letters in support and substantial opposition. Ms. Eisen, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning, Mr. Chair.
All right, I understand you are withdrawing the application?
Yes, that's correct. We'd like to withdraw the application and close the file.
Okay, so there's nobody else on the call? Cindy?
Mr. Chair, no, there isn't anybody else for this file.
All right, so can I have a motion, panel, to, have this matter, well, I don't know that we need a motion. Barb, do we need a motion to withdraw an application?
Yes, just to close it, record keeping.
Okay,
So through you, Mr. Chair, I would move to accept the letter of withdrawal received by the applicant's representative and close the file.
all right. Aaron, you second that? All right, Aaron seconds it. All in favor? Thank you, Ms. Eisen. The application is withdrawn.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Number 2, 94 Frankdale Avenue. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing 1-story detached dwelling by constructing front and rear 1-story additions, a full 2nd-story addition, a rear basement walkout, and a rear ground floor deck. A new rear detached garage will also be constructed. On this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, staff reports from 2 staff reports from Urban Forestry. Mr. Lightbourne?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
I'm having difficulties hearing you.
Oh. Can you hear me now?
Just barely.
Can you hear me now?
Much better, thank you.
Okay. All right, so can we have a brief presentation, sir?
Yes. Once again, good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Colin Lightbourne, and the application before you is for 5 variances. As you laid out, a proposed 1-story front and rear addition and a 2nd-story addition over. I've checked the files. There are no letters or anyone opposing the application. If the committee feels that a presentation is required, I'll be more than happy to do so. it is a straightforward application. The variances that we are seeking are minor in nature, and it is in keeping with what the committee has approved on the street previously.
This is pretty straightforward, as you say. I think we'll just take it into committee unless, panel, do you have any questions? No questions, okay. Do we have comments or a motion?
I'm prepared to start. Chair, I would like to move a motion to approve the application. I think that the variances, both individually and cumulatively, are indeed minor. The proposed proposal would not be out of character with the neighborhood, and I believe it meets the 4 tests. And if my colleague has no further comment, that would be my motion.
Right.
Subject to 4, 2, and 3.
Yes, thank you. Aaron, would you second that motion?
No, I have no comment to add. I agree with Joe. I'm happy to second the motion.
All right, all in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you. Number 3. '98 Scarborough Beach Boulevard. Purpose of this application is to construct a detached garage in the rear of the existing 2-story semi-detached dwelling. On this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, support from a number of residences on Scarborough Beach and one on Hammersmith, and opposition from 78 Glen Manor Drive. Ms. Shabsov?
Yes. It's
Hi.
Maxine Shabso, the agent for the owner.
Yes, your address, please.
40 Fernwood Park Avenue, Toronto.
All right, so it doesn't look like we need a presentation on this matter. Do you have anything you want to say before I take it to the panel?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yes, it is. Panel, do you have any questions, comments, or do we have a motion? Can we have a motion?
I have some questions, Chair.
Go ahead.
I'd like to understand, on one of the drawings, it's showing as proposed plumbing in the structure. Are you proposing that this be habitable space?
No, no habitable space. They've been talking to the neighbors about that as well, but definitely not. It's more of a convenience thing, while working in the garage, for just having that amenity available. That's simply it. It's not a big part of it.
And also, the variance with respect to the size of the structure, are there others of that size that you can point to?
Well, if you look on an overhead view of that neighboring vicinity, there are quite a few garages, large garages. There's a fair bit of rentals on Hammersmith, which have double garages in their rear yards. So, yeah, I would say it's not atypical.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right. All right. Aaron, do you have any questions?
I only have one question. I'm trying to look at there's one letter from the opposition from Linda McDonald at 78 Glen Manor Drive. Were you able to speak to her before this hearing?
No, we were not. We don't know this neighbor. They are a street away. We believe he does indeed own that unit, but I don't think they live there. but of course I can't substantiate that. But no, we have not spoken to them.
All right, and I believe she is not here today.
No, I don't think so.
No. Okay.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, there is one interested party on the line.
Yes, no, I know that. I'm just gonna call her. So,
Okay, thank you.
we have another speaker, Ms. Perego.
And just to clarify for the applicant, tenants also have the opportunity to speak. It doesn't have to be just the owners of property.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. I'm Karen Perico. I live in the other half, the southern half of the semi-detached residence occupied by the applicant. I had 4 points. The first, I think, has just been addressed, which is that it is a non-residential designation, so that's good. I am asking for tree protection with no limbing of the tree that's in the corner of my property because of the height of this new building. It's quite substantial. Thirdly, it relates to glazing. All the windows and doors that will be put in place in the new structure will face directly into my bedrooms in my home. And having spoken with the owner, it was agreed that opaque glazing be used for any apertures, whether they're windows or doors. This was agreeable, but I wanted it passed through the city so that future owners, either at my address or their address, would be protected. And finally, just a bit of housekeeping. My neighbors have built a temporary shed to house all the contents of their current garage. And I just asked that prior to a certificate of completion being awarded by the chief building official, that this shed be removed. The temporary shed.
All right, Ms. Perego, we as the committee deal with variances to the bylaws. We can't deal with that, but I'm sure that there is a department in the city, maybe the building department, before they give the final clearance, will be able to deal with that.
That's with regard to my 4th point, the temporary shed.
Yes.
And the 3 prior points.
Well, we'll deal with those. We'll
All right.
let Ms. Shabsov deal with those.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Shabsov?
Yes, we have no issue at all with the first point. The new building will be for storage only and will not be used for residential. Tree protection will do the best that we can to protect the tree that's adjacent to the property. The glazing, yes, we will put frosting or some sort of visual frosting, opaque glazing on that, and the storage shed will be removed. The notes, I think the owner at 96 had requested that these stipulations be on title, but we can't do that. I mean, we will not be using it for residential, and we have agreed to the opaque glazing, but we can't be putting that on title to the property.
But we can, I believe we can make it a condition with respect to glazing. Those windows on, what side is it?
East.
So all windows on the east side will be opaque?
Yes, we're fine with that.
Okay. All right, thank you. Panel, have any further questions or comments?
Through you, Chair, I believe that what's being proposed is not unprecedented in the broader neighborhood. I do have a little bit of concern with respect to the proposed plumbing in the accessory structure. I would be prepared to approve the application with the condition with respect to the opaque glazing on any windows on the garage, but also a condition that the garage not be habitable space. And if my colleague has no further comments, I'd be prepared to move that as a motion. So that would be my motion, to approve the application on the condition that the windows have opaque glazing and that the garage not be used as habitable space.
I second that.
Are those windows on the east side only?
I believe that's the only windows, but yes, Chair.
Yes, okay. And you second that, Aaron?
I second that.
All right, all in favor? Have your approval, thank you.
Thank you.
Number 4, 55 Highland Road. The purpose of this application is to convert the existing one-story, one-unit detached dwelling into a two-story, two-unit detached dwelling by constructing a rear two-story addition, a full second-story addition, a rear basement walkout, a front porch, and a rear ground floor deck. And on this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, staff reports from Urban Forestry, 4 of them. Well, yes, 4 of them, and correspondence in concern or interest from 57 Highfield Road. Mr. Lightborn?
Yes, good morning once again, Mr. Chairman. The application before you, as you laid out, is for a two-story rear addition, second-story addition over the existing bungalow. In regards to the urban forestry, my client has retained an arborist, and he has submitted an application for either tree protection or tree removal of the one tree. It looks like it's going to be tree protection because the tree is beyond the driveway. So I don't think that will be an issue. Secondly, in regards to Mr. Brown, the property owner of 57 Highfield Road, I did have a conversation with him not too long ago to address his concerns. I believe I've addressed them, and he was happy that I did call him and just go through the application. His main concern was the second floor projection from on the north wall, seeking a variance of what variance is that? Oh, I can't remember the variance. I think it was 0.25 or some meters from the side lot line, and he was happy with that regard. It's only the portion of the cantilever of the second floor that's projecting closer to the side lot line. The main wall remains at 1.2 meters side yard setback. Also, he was a little concerned with the depth, and I pointed out to him that the main building from the main front wall to the main rear wall meets is just 17 meters. I have a one-story bay window at the front, on the front wall of the house, which projects 0.3048 meters. That what puts the maximum building length beyond the 17 meters. All the other variances I would consider minor in nature because of site condition, and there is the grade varies from the south side of the lot at the front of the house. It dips down to the driveway, and in order for me to facilitate a garage, it affected the first floor height, the porch height at the front of the house. The rear deck, it is above the required height. I'm asking for a variance for that primarily because the owner has a son who is wheelchair bound, and it was for him to have access to the back deck. I ran the finished first floor and the deck at the same level, so there's no obstruction for the son to use the porch. Other than that, the other variances are minor in nature. It is in keeping with what is currently being built in the neighborhood and in the area.
All right, panel, do you have any questions of Mr. Lightborn? Good morning, Carl.
Good morning. I'm sorry I had difficulty connecting until now. My apologies.
All right, well, we're happy you're here.
Chair,
Thank you.
I have a question. The tree that Forestry speaks to is not at all identified on any of the plans that you've submitted. Can you, I know you're saying that your arborist is going to submit a report, but the tree as it currently stands, does the walkway or any part of the front of your proposal come near that tree?
The closest point to the tree is the walkway. And that walkway, as you know, is just a 2 or 3 inch concrete slab on grade. So in no way it's going to affect the root system or require any damage to the tree at all. And as I said, the arborist has submitted an application to Urban Forestry.
If there is any concern with respect to the potential of the tree, is the front could be adjusted to ensure that that didn't happen?
I would have to make some adjustments, yes.
But you would still be able to have a stairway exiting the proposed home and some type of walkway that would still allow this to proceed if there was any concerns with respect to your plan and its impact on that tree?
I will definitely would have to make changes if it does affect the tree's root system, but I don't know at this point in time. I would have to wait to hear back from Urban Forestry, and then I will follow their recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right, any further
You're welcome.
questions?
Could I clarify your, pardon me, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Could I clarify your position on the Urban Forestry recommendations? They're recommending, their report is incorrect. It says variance number 7 and variance number 7. I believe it's variance number 7 and variance number 8. And they're recommending that they both be denied. Alternatively, submitting a complete application. Are you negotiating with Urban Forestry in the hopes that variance 7 and variance 8 could be retained? I just wanted to clarify that.
With all due respect for urban forestry, I was a little perplexed as to why they're objecting to the front yard open and soft landscaping, the deficiencies there. I can't understand why they would be denying or asking for this application to be denied based on that. My point is, we have submitted an application by my arborist, and if there are any concerns that urban forestry has, certainly I will address them. Until that time, I don't know what those their concerns are. Once I find out what the concerns are, then I certainly will address them there and then. We haven't changed anything in terms of the front yard site conditions, and changing the landscaping. There was front yard parking there existing. What I have done is push the parking internally. There is a deck in the front yard right now. There is also a wheelchair lift in the front yard. So this application that is before you has removed that front deck, has removed the wheelchair lift. That wheelchair lift now is an internal wheelchair lift. So I've gone through great lengths to open up the front yard to agree that it is much better, more open now. So as I said, I'm a little perplexed as to why urban forestry would ask that this application be denied because of the deficiency on the front yard hard and soft landscaping.
Okay, I just want to join the discussion. I'm looking at the Google map and it looks like you have 2 trees in front of you at the front lawn.
There are 1 tree.
One tree, okay.
Yeah, that's near
So
the
other one is kind of at the property line, right? So I think the concern of the Toronto Forestry is probably the larger one, which is very close to your entrance. So currently, yeah, if you allow me to continue to speak,
Sure.
currently your entrance is coming through the side, like a driveway, right? Like a mutual driveway. You have to come up to several steps to go up to the entrance.
That's right.
Right, and that's the tree which the Toronto Forestry is concerned about, because the canopy of it overlaps of the staircase. And that means the roots are right next to the staircase as well. This is a fact, right? So I think this is what they're concerned about. So I guess well, let me finish please again, okay? I'm asking you questions and you just listen. So what I'm asking you right now is, how are you going to protect this tree without disturbing the roots?
Well, as I said before, I can only abide by what urban forestry suggests.
It suggests us to deny this application, so I'm trying to help you. You have to give us a reason to override the recommendation. What is the reason why we should listen to you instead of the Toronto Forestry here? While we can see the tree, a big tree, in front of the entrance where the roots is right next to the entrance, inside your construction scope. This is the question. You have to come up with an answer now. Don't avoid it.
Simply put, who am I addressing, please?
My name is Aaron. So you can just address to the whole panel. It's just not.
If this tree poses a problem, my client is willing, with the permission of urban forestry, to have the tree removed, and we will plant a new tree on the north side of the lot.
Now, this is an agreement you have to make with Toronto Forestry.
That's
And
what I'm saying.
from my experience, you have to, every one tree you remove, you have to pay for the fee plus planting
Of
3
course,
trees.
I realize that. I realize that. So my
Well, you
arborist.
just say you're planting 1 tree, and I just told you the roof is.
Excuse me, I
So you
gave
don't
you the
know.
opportunity to speak, so I'm trying to answer the question to help you to understand that if the tree has to be removed, my client is willing to have that tree relocated to the north side of the property line where I have an area of soft landscaping. So they get rid of 1 tree, the diameter of that tree based on the arborist report is 0.19 millimeters or centimeters. So it is not a very large tree. We will be more than
Okay,
happy.
I'm just gonna ask you one last time, okay? The Toronto Forestry recommend us to deny your application because they want to protect this tree. And your answer is to remove this tree and plant another one. Is there any other better way, better solution that we can consider? Or are you thinking of, I don't know, deferring this application and have an agreement with the Toronto Forestry first? Because it's really hard to approve it.
I don't think deferment is necessary. My arborist is dealing with urban forestry, and we will certainly abide by urban forestry. You asked me if I have an alternate plan. I addressed that with you. I said that if the tree becomes a problem, with urban forestry's permission, we will ask to have that tree removed and a new tree planted to the north side of the lot. That is
What if
plain.
they said they don't allow you to remove, then what will be the, and then we approve your variance?
Well,
That's the problem. I really want to approve it because your scale of project makes sense to me. The problem now is the tree that kind of trigger us in this trap. You know the situation here. I'm trying to help you. Now that's what I'm trying to say.
But I think I've explained it enough that the committee can render a decision on it. I can only abide what urban forestry recommends.
Colin, I think what the member wants to know is if urban forestry refuses your request to remove that tree, what will you do?
Well, I guess I would have to redesign my entrance, the steps to the front porch. But at this point in time, I don't think it's going to be a major issue because my arborist would either ask for to damage the root system or to provide tree protection. Because looking at what the arborist has given me, the diameter of the tree is not very large. So therefore, the root system based on the canopy, I don't know how far that extends over to my proposal, but certainly if that becomes an issue, I would have to change the direction of the stairs to improve the site condition.
So I think we should look carefully at the letter from Urban Forestry because it says if the committee approves the requested variances, then Urban Forestry requests condition number 1, submission of a complete application for a permit to injure or remove the city-owned tree. And as
Exactly.
I understand it from Mr. Lightbourne, his arborist has applied for that permit.
Exactly.
So I think, unless you have any further questions, panel, I think there's another speaker, so I want to move on to that speaker. Okay, Ms. Rogers?
Hi.
Hi.
Good morning. I have quite a few concerns. We're on the south side of 55. We're at 53, and we're extremely close, about a foot apart. I have physical concerns and mental concerns as well. Any type of groundbreaking very much worries me, because our foundation will probably crumble a bit more.
All right, Ms. Rogers.
Yes?
We're a committee of adjustment. We deal with variances. We do not deal with construction issues. If you have some concerns about the construction and how it's going to affect, I suggest you get in touch with the building department to ensure that your property is protected.
Okay. Does that also go as well for the well-being of occupants here? We have someone with cancer. Would I address my concerns to them as well?
Well, how is the person with cancer affected?
I don't quite know how he's going to get the rest that he's going to need. He's been fighting it for over a year now, and needs another year or so, hopefully, before it will go into remission.
Well, I don't know who you address with respect to that issue. We've had this issue before us. I don't know that there's much we as a panel can do about it, but when you're speaking to the building department, you might ask them if there's anything that they could see that might be of some assistance.
Okay. All right then, I guess truly most of my concerns have to do with construction. I will take it up with them.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
Pardon?
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
Yes, well, I was just
Her
gonna,
first issue?
all right, Mr. Lightburn, I was just gonna call on you.
Thank you. In regards to her first issue, the rear wall of number 53 is basically in line with the rear wall of number 55. So that rear addition extends from there. We're not going any deeper than the existing foundation, and it is required by the buildings department to provide shoring along the south wall boundary line. This would prevent any problems with the neighboring foundation. So my answer to her, yes, we will be providing shoring along that wall, along the boundary line, to protect her foundation. So she shouldn't have any concerns about that. I don't know how to address her second issue.
Okay. Does plumbing, that also falls within construction issue?
Yes, Ms. Rogers.
Okay.
Any plumbing regarding what?
I'm concerned that our clay pipes are going to take more damage again. The last time when the city was upgrading some plumbing, it broke and we incurred costs of over $4,000.
All right.
I don't know how to address that, but
Mr. Chair, at this point, The neighbor is speaking. Might want to.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Perhaps this is a conversation they can have offline because there's a lot of.
I think so too, yes.
Yes, these are not issues we can deal with.
Unrelated to the variance.
All right, thank you. We're gonna take it into committee now. These are not issues with which we can deal. So, panel, do you have any questions or comments, or do we have a motion?
Chair, I think that, Forestry certainly has some concerns with respect to the tree. Would be, if we approve this, a requirement that they submit an application, which they have already done. Forestry is not bound by any determination by the committee. If it feels that it's not going to grant the permit, then the applicant would have to come up with an alternative. So I think that there is still an opportunity through the attachment of a condition to let Forestry put in place their responsibilities with respect to the trees. With respect to the front yard landscaping generally, the variances as requested are not uncharacteristic of what already exists in the neighborhood. The front wall of the building is really not being pulled out. The actual appearance of the front by the construction of the garage and allowing the accessibility issues that the applicant wishes to address actually may be better accommodated. The side yard variances are basically existing. The depth variance, I believe, that's being requested is indeed minor. And I would be in support of the application subject to the forestry condition. Those would be my comments with respect to the application.
All right, does anybody have?
Yeah, I'm happy to second the motion. I think the applicant have tried its very best to answer my questions, and I'm satisfied with the answers. And I believe that if we attach the Toronto forestry condition, the problem will be solved. I don't think the development is that big, and I think it's in mind.
Okay, so that would be my formal motion then, Chair. Approval of the application subject to forestry condition number 1.
All right, do we have
I'll second that.
Second that. All in favor? All right, you have your approval, sir. Thank you. Number 5447 Manning Avenue. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing 3-unit, 3-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a rear 1-story addition, a rear 2nd-story balcony, and a rear 3rd-story addition with a rear 3rd-story deck. We have on this application material submitted by the applicant, a staff report from planning, and opposition from 449 and 445 Manning Avenue. Miss?
Oh,
Just a minute.
is this what? Okay. Hi, everybody. All members. Is it my turn to speak, or were you still?
Yes. Are you, just a
Okay,
minute.
sorry about that.
Are you,
okay.
just a minute. Are you Mr. Rafiq?
Yes, that's me.
Okay, please introduce yourself, and then we can deal with this application.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Pamir Rafiq from Lucid Homes. I am speaking today on behalf of the owner of this property, and my address is 33 Heaven Crescent, Milton, and yeah, I'm representing the owner today.
Okay, so I don't know that we need a presentation, but I'd like to ask, why is,
Sure.
what is the existing floor space index, and why are we having such a large increase?
Okay, so the existing, so the allowed obviously is 0.6 as a zoning notice already pointed out. However, the existing is at 1.57. 0.6 is the max allowed, 1.57 is the existing. Our proposal is 1.69, so really it's an increase by 0.12 of what is existing there right now. And this shows that, or obviously it's an assumption on my end that the bylaw had been changed at some point between now and after the house, the entire street was constructed. The bylaws became more strict, but really the entire street has homes that are very similar in size of what our proposal is. They're all in the 1.5, 1.6 range, based on my observation. And really another reason why the number seems a lot higher is because the basement is actually calculated as square footage as well for this one, since it's closer to the grade than what would officially be considered the main floor. So that's something that drags the number up. And I guess the most accurate answer to your question is that the bylaw is assumed to have been implemented after the entire street had been constructed, which is so out of character of the street, in my opinion.
Thank you, sir. Panel, do you have any questions of this witness?
I have one question which is perhaps not fair, so if you don't want to answer it, that's fine. I'm trying to understand the objection that we received from 449 and the implications of your third floor addition on that owner's ability to have a third floor terrace. And unfortunately, we don't have a drawing that shows the two properties together. Do you know from your own floor plans where how your third floor addition is in some way blocking the ability to have a third floor terrace on the adjacent property? I will ask your neighbor as well, but that person won't have the opportunity to be able to refer to your plan. So I'm wondering if you've actually looked at this yourself. Yes.
Okay. So I'm not sure if this is a satisfying answer. I'm trying to just answer as honest as I can. If whoever has control over these drawings, if you don't mind going to the right elevation, it should be the next one of the next two pages. Yeah, right here. Right here. Would it be possible for you to zoom into the area where, let's say, the brick transitions into the siding? If you look closely, the roof line, you have the tower at the front, and then as you're going towards the back, it slopes up, then you have a flat portion, and then it slopes down again before it reaches the flat area of the addition. If you look closely, you might notice that there's a dashed gray line that continues down from the slope towards the back. Did I explain that well?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a line exactly right there where the hand is. And that is where the original roof line is, and the neighbor's roof line matches that. So whatever is happening past that with the siding, that is what we're proposing. So if I'm just describing what the proposal is, whether that is acceptable or not, whether you consider that to be an obstruction to the neighbor, I leave that up to you. But really, I think it's not like that wall of the neighbor is all glass. What he has there is it's just a dormer that's facing straight out. So it would really be, maybe he sees like in the corner of his eye, he would see a portion of that wall, but I'm not sure exactly. Also, if he looks down, he already has like the membrane of the flat roof right in front of him at the bottom. So he won't be able to see the floor of his backyard or really much of his property except looking straight out. Because what he would see is just at the bottom of this, exactly where the hand is, that's just a continuous flat roof that continues all the way to the end. So in terms of view or obstruction of view, I'm not sure how much that affects, but again, I just try and give you an accurate description of what the site conditions are and leave the decision up to you.
Thank you. That's been very helpful. I appreciate your comments.
Any further?
I have a question. Chair, are we hearing from any of the objectors at all? Are they online?
There's
Because
three,
if they are, I'll hold my question until they're finished, but otherwise I have a question.
there's three more speakers.
Okay, I'll hold my question then.
Okay. Mr. Magistrale,
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair.
good morning. Your address, please?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair, other committee members and attendees. I live at 449 Manning Avenue with my wife, my son, and the titled owner of the property 449 Manning, Adelina Spatola.
Okay.
And we are in firm opposition of this application.
So please tell us what your reasons for your opposition.
Yes. Yes, I will, gladly, thank you. So this application requests changes that are unprecedented in the immediate neighborhood and simply out of character. It goes far beyond any logical allowance, livable space as a ratio of a lot size index stipulated by the city, 0.6 to 1.69. I'd like to comment on the 1.57 index stated. That index is increased as a result of an illegal extension that was built decades ago on the main floor. And I will allude to that in a minute. I don't believe this increase in index can be considered under any circumstances minor in nature. The structural addition encroaches on the privacy of adjacent properties, as well as properties on the east side of Euclid, which would be located at the back of this Manning 447 property. It further encroaches on the privacy caused by these balconies that are being constructed on the second and third floor on this illegal extension, which contains a bathroom in it, like I said, that was built a number of years ago. And as you can even see on the photo there, 447 Manning has the least amount of soft landscape of all those homes in that area, as seen by the graphic on the screen. These balconies, again, I'd like to stress that were built on an illegal ground floor extension, and also increase the existing index as stipulated by the representative for the owner of 447 to 1.57. So I would like the committee to essentially ignore that index, which would essentially lessen the discrepancy between 0.6 and 1.69. The increase of this hard landscape will further eliminate soft landscapes on our property and will worsen the already poor water drainage on our property. It would also cast a great deal of shadow onto our property, onto our soft spaces in our backyard. We already have a great deal of shadow caused by 451, by the 60-foot, 260-foot trees planted on the property line, which are quite beautiful, but again, cast a great deal of shadow on the structure, on our backyard rather. The structure will also, as I said, reduce a great deal of sunlight on the property, impacting our green spaces and the green spaces of adjacent properties. We would be the only home in the neighborhood impeded, our third floor walkout would be impeded by a third floor extension. As shown in the photos I submitted in my comments of opposition, you can see along Euclid and along Manning to the north and south, there are no third floor extensions whatsoever. Walkouts are the prevailing structural norm. This box-like structure that is being proposed does not match the architectural integrity of the surrounding area. Aluminum siding is very rare in our neighborhood. We'd like to draw the committee's attention to the numerous salient points put forth in the letter submitted by 432 Euclid. Unfortunately, they were somehow they missed the deadline for written submissions and an opportunity to discuss their opposition in this presentation. Yeah, that graphic there shows only walkouts, no third floor extensions. That is Euclid Avenue. And that view of the CN Tower would essentially be eliminated for us sitting on our walkout. We would no longer see that. Also, I'd like to draw the attention of 445 Manning. They have a number of salient points as well. So as displayed in those photos from my submission, they further demonstrate the exceptionality of this application. The third floor extension is an excessive addition. The existing livable space that 447 has now on that third floor more than suffices for any livable or rentable plans that the owner may have for the property. I believe it's approximately 625 square feet of livable space on that third floor. And adding that 225 to 250 square feet is just excessive, unnecessary and excessive, and like I said, uncharacteristic for the neighborhood. They have all the amenities to do whatever they like there, whether they want to rent or live there. And I just think the addition is grossly excessive. I also like to draw the committee's attention to a minor variance application from 2016 for 451 Manning, which is that property you see there with the red structure, the red and yellow structure, which is the property to the north of us. 447 was an integral part of getting that minor variance disapproved. So I find it ironic that 5 years later, they would be submitting an application for a variance that goes even beyond what 451 applied for in 2016. The owner of 447 Manning, Alfonso Tedesco, was integral in soliciting a number of dozens, in fact, 3 to 4 dozen signatures of surrounding residents that opposed that 2016 application by 451.
All right,
So I don't
Mr.
want the
Magis,
irony of this.
Mr.
Yes, sir.
Magistrate, your time is up. Please wrap up.
Okay. Yes, I will. Thank you very much. So the Spatola family has lived at 449 Manning since 1963, and we would like to see the prevailing integrity of the neighborhood remain unchanged. My mother-in-law is 84 years old, and a fire that was started at 447 Manning in June of 2020 has caused her a great deal, in our family, a great deal of distress. And based on the current pace of construction at 447 Manning, if this approval gets approved by the Committee of Adjustment, I don't know when they'll be done, and it'll just further, kind of ruin her remaining years at this property that she has lived in for over almost 60 years now. So I would strongly urge the committee to deny this application.
All right, sir, would you please tell us what you mean by what was illegal and why do you say it was illegal?
Well, there was never, as far as I know, and according to my mother-in-law, there was no application ever submitted to the city for this structure that exists at the back now, which the second and third floor balconies are being proposed, which go 11.5 feet beyond the existing back wall of the property. That structure you see there is going to be the foundation of the second and third floor balconies, and I don't believe there was ever a application approved by the city to build that structure. So essentially they're requesting a minor variance to be built on a structure, that structure right there that the cursor is on, yeah. As far as I know, that was it's not a legal structure.
All right, thank you.
So, I mean, it's been there for decades and that's, ancient history, but now to build an 11.5 foot balcony beyond the wall, the existing back wall, I think is just not minor in any sense of the word.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Panel,
Chair.
do you have any further questions of this witness? All right, let's move on to Mr. Madrabakjakis.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hi there. Hi, committee. Thank you for holding this and giving us this opportunity to speak up in objection to 447 Manning's plans. I'm sorry, when I wrote the submission, it was after a late deadline, and we just kind of jotted something down really quickly, and just want to go over some of the speaking points and some of the concerns that my father and my mother have. My name's Alex, by the way, and I'm the son of the title owners of the property. So our main concern, we have a number of concerns, but the main concern with the property seems to be with the amount of new windows that are going to be very, very close to our home. I'm not quite sure, to be completely honest with you, and I'm sure you can probably educate me on this, about the amount of side yard setback between dwellings, which are permissible. But 6 new windows gives us a little bit of a worry, especially due to what has happened recently with the fire. There was a big fire at the house last year, it made the news and everything like that. And they're very, very concerned that any sort of flare-ups that could happen in the future could affect the property again. We're already affected by the fire, and we think that with new windows, it gives ample opportunity for any other issues to happen in the future. So the 6 new windows that are going to be added in this proposal is something that concerns George and Christine. The addition of a third floor extension impacts a 180-degree view from our third floor walkout and deck. The deck that we have is just a walkout. There's no interior livable space. I'm not sure if you can see that in plans or anything like that, but to see a big wall with siding on that north side, although not as impactful to be blockaded as 449, it seems like to us, for us to lose that exposure would be disappointing, particularly when we take a look at the other properties in the area. We see nothing is even close. Nothing is even close to being granted in floor area. The third story addition is not yet, okay? The noise and dust caused by the proposed work will undoubtedly interfere with our and our tenants' enjoyment of 445 Manning, with the construction being so close between the homes. We've already gone through a ton of pain and suffering with the... Yep, please.
Sir, we don't deal with construction issues. We're only dealing with the variances. So just tell us what impact these will have on you apart from construction issues.
Apart from, okay, so, okay, I was just to have past precedents, we were concerned that the ongoing work will impact things, and considering that we've endured a number of restorations to the property because of the past, we just want the committee to take that into consideration for the future. The addition of the back balconies, not only being where the extension is, but an additional balcony was going to give us absolutely no privacy in our backyards. So those balconies, although not as disruptive as a third story addition, is still something to be left, that is left to be desired from our perspective. We have the amount of soft ground landscaping in the front. We have lots of grass in the front to try to comply to city regulations on the amounts and the ratio of soft ground landscaping on our property. And as far as I understand, 447 Manning has almost nothing. It's all concrete in the front, concrete in the back. I'm not sure if that complies with city regulations. And when I go to the next point, I'm going to try to avoid that one because I'm not going to deal with the construction. And just so that the committee is completely understanding of our intentions and our oppositions, we just want to be clear that we've had consistent unneighborly behavior from Mr. Tedesco, and we just want that to be very clear and on the record that while you make your consideration with this decision. So thank you for listening.
All right, sir, do you have any information that the previous additions were illegal as suggested by Mr. Magistrale?
No, this is not something that we paid attention to. As far as I understand, I'm not entirely sure, but as far as I understand, the addition was done before we purchased the property, as far as I understand, but I don't specifically remember any sort of hearing. I don't remember receiving any sort of notices about any sort of addition. So I think if Mr. Magistral were to claim that, I would not be surprised, because we have nothing on record stating that there was any sort of addition.
All right. Panel, do you have any questions of this witness? All right, we'll move on to Ms. Piasani.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Is it my turn to speak, sir?
It is.
All right, my name is Fernanda Pisani. I live at 432 Euclid Avenue. So I am kitty corner to the property in question. And I think that the neighbors have expressed a lot of my concerns, which I concur with completely. But I also want to make a point of the fact that the amount of increase in floor space index is not something that should be considered in a linear fashion. It must be considered in a three-dimensional fashion, because this is additional mass that will increase depletion of light, depletion of privacy. Now, I looked at the recommendation from the city as to privacy concerns. And they did not take, it seems like they did not look at the drawings thoroughly, because the privacy concerns are not just to the north and the south of the property. The privacy concerns are also to the east of the privacy of the property. Backyards face the east of Manning Avenue at 447, and they face west of us. Now, if I'm looking at this diagram, I'm not sure that the numbers on the diagram are correct, because I'm at 432, and that's kitty corner, and the numbers here seem to be too high if they're the property numbers on Euclid. So with that all said, I'm just northeast of the highlighted 447. The issue of privacy is not just from the balcony per se, but also from windows at night. We have concerns in regards to accessibility to the properties when there is an emergency with extreme weather being rain, being snow, and in this case, the fire that happened this summer really brought things to light that these houses were built in a way where there is proximity. Yes, there's close proximity, but they're tiered back for a reason. They're tiered back so that people get adequate light, they get adequate space, there's adequate circulation. The precedent that's being set to square off these buildings and make them as high as possible is problematic now, because the buildings that have had these permits approved are now causing problems that we are now feeling and we want to try and avoid. So in regards to neighborhood character, I just want to stress the fact that neighborhood character is not just what you see from the street, it's overall engineering and design, and that goes to the fronts and the backs. The houses were tiered for a reason. They made the neighborhoods livable between neighbors, although they share walls and they share very narrow alleys. And they gave us a sense of space and also enabled enough circulation for adequate drying times after rain and snow. So I am in opposition to this plan. I think it should be scaled back if it's approved. And I would also like to stress the fact that the privacy issue is not just to the north and the south, but it's to the east of 447, because they would have direct views of the backyards that are to the east of the properties. Thank you for your consideration.
Ms. Pisani, do you have any information about any part of the previous addition being illegal or without a permit?
No, I've known the Tedesco family a long time, but I can't honestly give you proper information as to that specific point.
All right, thank you. Panel, do you have any questions of this witness? All right. Mr. Rafiq?
Yeah.
Yes, so we need you to tell us, first of all, you can respond to any points raised by the previous speakers relating to their complaints. But I'd like you to address the issue. This was a waiver.
Address the issue, which is?
Which is that this was a waiver, I understand. So that means that you waived the planning department's setting out the required variances?
I'm not sure I'm understanding. Sorry.
All right. So
Instead of submitting the application with the zoning review prepared by Toronto Building, you submitted the application.
we can't hear. Is that Barbara?
Yes.
Well, we couldn't hear you, Barbara.
Oh, sorry. The chair is asking you why, if you chose to submit a waiver versus a zoning review prepared by Toronto Building.
No, so we had made an application for zoning and we received a detailed response by the zoning department.
But it says on this application we have that this was a waiver.
Okay. I'm not sure. Yeah, so we have received the zoning application. If I'm not sure exactly what implications it makes, whether it's considered a waiver or not, but that might have been done in error. Really, we do have a zoning review, and the one item that was pointed out was the one which about the floor space index.
All right.
So I'm not. Would it help if I make reference to that? Or?
So there's an allegation that the owner did some building without permission. Do you have any information about that?
I do not have any information on that. It was not something that was brought up during the meetings which I had with the owner, and also if the people that refer to the addition in the back as something that was put in place illegally, then I have to say to that if you look at the drawings, you'll see that that portion is now proposed to be rebuilt. So whether that portion is illegal or not, now we're working towards legalizing it. And really, like I said before, we leave that up to the committee if they're in support of the increased FSI, but really that portion is proposed to be rebuilt legally, whether it was illegal before or not. But now we're doing a due diligence and we're making sure to follow any and all regulations that are rules and requirements that the city has put in place.
Okay, so Mr. Rafiq, do you want to address any of the other issues raised by the opposition?
So there were quite a few. I made a bunch of notes. So one of the items was about aluminum siding. So the siding by all means doesn't have to be aluminum. We can propose to match the one that is at the front. That is a design issue anyways, which I don't think that the zoning department is considered about right now. But it's not really, we're not married to aluminum siding. It could be anything that matches the character of the neighborhood. Right now, we just showed siding as a representation of any sort of siding. Floor area of addition, so we have an addition in the back. Anything that's built on top of that addition is not going to be added to the floor space index because it's just balcony area, which is not, let's say, heated living space. The next thing I wanted to say is that we're not changing the footprint whatsoever. Footprint stays as is. That's the whole the discussion about the linear versus three-dimensional. Curb appeal, we're really not changing the curb appeal whatsoever. From the street, the character is in line. We're still in line with the character of the street. No changes whatsoever from the street. I understand that the lady that spoke that was the third person that raised her concerns, said that curb appeal, that the character of the street is not defined by the curb appeal. We understand. We still think that it meets the character of the street. Next thing was while working on legalization of the addition. Again, whether it's existing or not, it's grandfathered. It's been there for a long time. Whether it's illegal or not, and I'm repeating myself now. Now we're working on legalizing it as we're rebuilding it, regardless. And then the last item that I noted here is about the additional windows. We will make sure. Again, that's a construction matter, which is something that the building department is going to take care of, regardless. But just to put the gentleman's mind at ease, we will make sure to follow anything that the building code requires. We're going to either install fire-rated windows or fire curtain, or make sure that it meets the building code requirements. That it meets the building code requirements in one way or another.
May I rebut some of the comments, Mr. Chair? Sorry for the interruption.
No, you may not. You've had had your opportunity to speak. It's now the panel's opportunity to ask further questions or to take it into committee. Panel, do you have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question of the applicant.
Yes,
Go ahead.
Carl, Joanne had her hand up first, so.
Yeah, please, go ahead, Joanne.
Okay, thank you. Couple of questions that I'd like a submission on. With respect to the FSI being requested, I didn't hear you provide any examples of other properties in the immediate area that have an FSI as you're suggesting. Also, I'd like your response to the submissions of the opposition that speak to that none of the properties in the immediate area have third-story additions that are not stepped in from the rear of the property, and that what you're proposing is uncharacteristic in the neighborhood with respect to the third-story addition that you are proposing. So I'd like your response to those two questions, please.
Okay, first question was about the FSI in relation to neighboring properties. So whether the neighboring properties or any property on the same street are exceeding the FSI by as much as our proposal, I can neither confirm nor deny. And really, we might be close to the well, we definitely are at the upper scale with our proposal. Absolutely, we're aware of that. But the point that I made earlier is I might have not explained it well enough. But my point is not that they're all in the same range as ours. What I was trying to say is that since all of them have the basement as counted as part of the FSI, and they have a third story, they all well exceed the 0.6. Just from my observation driving around the street, I'm very confident that they're all exceeding even 100%. I would even say that they're all close to 1.3 at the very least. Again, that's my observation. I cannot validate that, but the character of the street is to have a basement plus 3 stories, and the 0.6 floor space index is it's really surprising that that's really something that is applied to the city, maybe to the street. It may be something that's for the greater neighborhood, that's more reasonable for the greater neighborhood, maybe surrounding areas, but really this street, it's all basement is accounted in it and 3 stories on top of that. So every single house on that street, again, I can't validate it, as per my observation, is probably close to double, if not more, than 0.6. So that's the first question. The second question was regarding, sorry, do you mind reminding me again what the second question?
The second question relates to, I'd like your response to the comments submitted by those in opposition, both in writing and verbally, that what you're proposing as a third story extension, so that all the walls of all the stories line up, is not the character that exists in the neighborhood, and that most at the third story at a minimum are stepped back from the rear wall. So I'd like your submissions with respect to that, please.
Okay, so the majority of the properties do not have that. While a lot of them have balconies in that area, so it's still accessible space. And I can give you your numbers for it. I have the street numbers. I have the Google satellite in front of me right now. But I don't want to. But that might serve no purpose. So I can see on one property 429, which is just a few properties down the road. That one seems to have a third story addition. It looks more like a sunroom, but it is accessible, livable, and most likely heated space. So yeah, well.
Does that one come out and is equal to the second story and first story, or is it still set back?
It's equal. It's flush with their furthest, with the front face of the furthest point of the exterior wall. 429 Manning.
Okay, Carl, you had a question?
As I understand it, this is a 3-unit development, and that being the case, as I understand it further, Unit 1 is the basement and the first floor, Unit 2 is the second floor, Unit 3 is the third floor. Unless I'm misreading it, you have a kitchen in the basement and you have a kitchen on the main floor, and I'm wondering, does that indicate a plan to make this a 4-unit development?
We do not have the intention of making this a 4-unit dwelling. If that is something that raises legitimate concerns or does not meet the zoning bylaw regulations, we're happy to change that to make sure that we comply, because the intention is not to have.
Why is it there? You've got a kitchen on the main floor that serves unit number 1. What is the purpose of the kitchen in the basement?
So the intention, and I'm not sure how far into personal proposals I should go on this. The intention is for the owner to live in that space, and I don't, and really I haven't dug into it too much. It might be a situation of like a spice kitchen and a show kitchen or something, but really I don't have a firm answer on that.
Okay, I appreciate that.
The answer that I can give you is that this is the intention is to have this as a 3-unit. If that is something that is a concern, we are happy to address that.
Thank you.
Any further questions? All right, we'll take it into committee. And any comments, or do we have a motion?
Through you, Chair, I have some concerns with respect to this application. I do note that it's gone through waiver. I know we're only going to deal with what's before us, and if something was missed, that would be on the applicant's responsibility. Having said that, though, given multiple opportunities to address some of the questions and the concerns, I'm not confident that I've received solid answers from the applicant with respect to prevailing character in the neighborhood or the FSI that's being requested. I did fully review all the material that was filed and the photographs that were provided from those in opposition, looked at the aerial views and the plans that were provided, and I don't believe that I can support this application. I don't have any information to support the FSI that's being requested, and I believe that the built form is not the prevailing character of the neighborhood, and I would not be in support of the application.
Carl?
Mr. Chairman, I completely agree with my colleague. I have real difficulties with this application, and like my colleague, I didn't hear information that would in any way alter my opinion that the floor space index that's being asked is, in my view, excessive, and my fear is that it would set a precedent. As the applicant indicated, he felt that there were other properties where the FSI was greater than 0.6, but at the upper end of what he believed, without having specific examples, the upper end was 1.3. So even if that information was correct, going to 1.69 is a substantial increase and a precedent-setting increase. I also don't think that the proposal respects the prevailing character of the neighborhood, and I also am going to be unable to support this application.
Aaron? Do you have any comment?
I agree with both of my colleagues. I've been trying to, listen and read back and forth, but the scale, the FSI have triggered a lot of, even though I'm surprised that there's just one variance we're looking at, but just looking at the FSI and the implication of that, it basically ballooned the whole mass into something pretty significant. And by hearing the impact, I mean the feedback from the neighbors, how it impacts their lives, I cannot support this application. I wish I would hear more about the positive side of this application from the applicant, but I really can't help it. There's nothing I can see any positive side about this development.
I agree with the other members of the panel that this FSI is excessive, and we have no sort of justification or examples where there are other properties with the same FSI. I just want to deal with the issue that Mr. Nepfeld raised with respect to the second kitchen in the basement. I've had clients who have two kitchens, one upstairs, one downstairs. I think it's a cultural thing or an ethnic thing, and I wouldn't put too much stock in that or indicate or believe that it means that there's going to be a fourth unit there. But having said that, it's the FSI in it that I am concerned about, and therefore I also would not support the application. Do we have a motion then for a refusal? Carl?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move that the application be refused. I don't believe it meets the test, and I don't believe that it's consistent with the character of the community.
All right, do we have a seconder? Joanne, thank you. All in favor of the motion? Thank you. Your application is refused, sir. Number 6, 146 Rundell Avenue. The purpose of this application is to convert the existing 2-story single-family semi-detached dwelling into a 3-story 2-unit semi-detached dwelling by constructing a 3rd-story addition and a rear 3rd-story balcony. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant only. Nilofar Soltani, please.
Yes. Hi, my name is Nilofar Soltani from Cage Davis Engineering. I'm the designer and the applicant for 146 Arundel. Do you need a presentation?
Yes, there is opposition, so we're going to need you to explain this application, please.
Sure. So the proposal is for a basement underpinning, 3rd floor addition, and new secondary suite, which in this case is the 2nd and 3rd floor. Since the 3rd-story addition is proposed to make space for secondary suite, it has triggered all the 3 variances listed. The proposal aims to minimize its impact to the front facade and have the least impact to the neighbor that shares the party wall with. The proposed 3rd floor front wall is set back approximately 0.43 meter from main wall, and the rear roof deck will have a partition for a fence to provide privacy for both occupants on either side of the party wall. These are some of the measures we've taken to make sure that the design fits the context of the neighborhood and respects the privacy of the residents. As for precedents, as you can see in the comparative study map, if you have that, both side wall heights of 9.6 up to 11 meters and FSI of 1.02 and 1.30 up to 1.30 minor variances have been granted to the houses in the area. So the wall height is the one in purple, and the one in green is all the FSI approvals. I apologize if it's a little small, but I was trying to capture the whole area. Yeah, that's about it. That's all I have to say for now.
All right, thank you. Panel, do you have any questions of this witness? Okay, move on to the next. Frank Lynn, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair, attempts were made to contact Franklin, but we couldn't reach him.
Okay, we move to Katie Kraus.
I'm the adjacent neighbor with the party wall. I don't necessarily have any objections. The applicant, or my neighbor, has been very forthcoming with the information. Of course, I'm concerned about
All right,
any.
could you, excuse me, could you tell us your name and where you live?
Oh, sure. My name is Katie Kraus. I live at 148 Arundel. I'm the neighbor who shares the party wall with the applicant.
All right, so what are your comments, Cindy? Time?
Katie, you mean?
No, I was talking to somebody else. You go ahead, Ms.
Oh,
Kraus.
okay. Okay, sorry. I'm just here to listen in. I've been in contact with the neighbor. She's very forthcoming with her application. I just want to make sure if there was something else I hadn't considered with her application that I wanted to be aware of.
Okay, thank you. So, Ms. Saltani, I don't believe we need to hear from you since there is no, we didn't hear any comments in opposition, so I'd like to take it to the panel now. Panel, do you have any questions or comments? Yes, Carl?
I was going to just comment that normally, certainly I have concerns when a semi-detached is being expanded in a way that's inconsistent with the attached building. However, I believe in this case, the applicant has gone to some pains to try and downplay the impact of the third story on the visual appearance of the semi-detached two units together. I think it's successful. I think it's a very clever way of dealing with the issue. I don't personally, with that solution, have difficulty with the application. I think that the variances are reasonable, and I think that the design solution does respect the attached semi. My only comment would be that if approved, I would like to tie the approval to building the development substantially in accordance with the drawings that we have before us, because to me, the actual design solution in this one is a very large factor in making the proposal work.
Yes, okay. Any other comments? All right, Ms. Saltani, I assume you have no problem with tying the approval to the plans? Okay.
No problem.
All right, thank you. Carl, did you want to make a motion?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move a motion or propose a motion that the application be approved, subject to development being substantially in accordance with all of the elevation drawings that we have before us.
All right, thank you. Seconder, Joanne, all in favor? You have your approval. Thank you. Next item, number 7, 128 Curzon Street. And the purpose of this application is to alter the existing 2.5 I assume it's 2.5 story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a 1-story rear addition and a 3rd floor rear addition and a rear 1st floor deck. And on this application, we have material submitted by the applicant and a 10 signature petition in support. Mr. Gain.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Yes, if you like a presentation, briefly, I believe this is a pretty straightforward application. It's something that's happening in the neighborhood. It's a row of semi-detached houses up and down Curzon Street, narrow lots, tight yard setbacks, kind of pedestrian right-of-ways between properties. And there's really any additions that are common to on these properties, you pretty much have to go to committee of adjustment. The existing houses are already over the FSI, and that's our 2 variances. One is the floor space index, where the existing house is at 94%, and we're proposing 109, which basically we're rebuilding a little one-story bump out at the ground floor and kind of opening it up to amenity a kitchen area. And then the third floor is just to accommodate a master bedroom off the top. So in character, we think this is pretty much in keeping with what you're seeing up and down the street. There's examples of this, a few houses in each direction. If I can get the submitted photographs on the screen, I can show that. I don't know if it's coming up, but a couple houses to the north. Oh, here we go. Page number 1, please. So photograph number 4, you can see an example. This is exactly what we're sort of proposing, where we have a sloping roof of the existing house in the front, and then a flat roof comes off the back. It just follows the massing of the existing house. Our second variance is the wall height, which is just that flat roof. And photograph number 6 shows another third floor addition, similar situation where they kind of bumped out the third floor to accommodate some sort of space. Photograph number 5 in the middle, that little gray addition behind the red umbrella, that's what's being rebuilt. That's our ground floor addition. It's kind of a sunroom that just needs to be rebuilt, proper foundation, proper heating, etc. So the floor space is, if I can go to the third page of the photos, the floor space index is a direct result of some key lots that come in off of Dundas Street. The first kind of half a dozen properties north on Dundas off of Curzon are cut short compared to some of the other properties as you head north. So the massing, I think, is pretty minor in terms of the size of the overall house, but the floor space gets increased because they're basically lost about 60 feet off the back of the property. All in all, we think it's in keeping. We spoke to the neighbors, we got support from everybody around us, and we seek your approval.
All right, thank you, sir. Panel, any questions, any comments, or do we have a motion?
Through you, Chair, I would agree that this is a very modest addition. There's support from immediate neighbors. The variances being requested are certainly not precedented. Any massing is at the rear, and if my colleagues have no further comment, I would move a motion to approve the application.
Do we have a seconder? Carl, all in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you very much. Next item is 103 to Grassy Street, and the purpose of this application is to construct a 2-car detached garage in the rear of an existing 2-story semi-detached dwelling. And with this application, we have materials submitted by the applicant, and we have 4 form letters in support. Mr. Higgins?
Hello, Mr. Chairman, I'm here.
Good. I don't, well, yeah, maybe you could just tell us why there's such a large floor area for this ancillary building.
Okay, thank you very much. Is it possible to bring up on the screen the drawings, site plan particularly? By the way, I'm Peter Higgins of Peter Higgins Architect Incorporated. 124 Merchant Street in Toronto. Postal code is M4S2Z2. Thank you very much for bringing up the site plan.
Hi.
Hello. Am I back on?
Yes, you're still on.
Thank you. So my clients, Jim and Fiona, have purchased this property in July 2019, and they're just wrapping up the renovation to the heritage semi that you can see on the left side. The box notes that it's under construction. It was a small side and rear addition, and the lot increases in width, although it has a funny jog at the back. And the idea here is to replace 2 garages and a storage structure that presently take up the entire back wall or back property line of the property. Those were built by the previous owner, and my clients would like to a garage for 2 cars, as well as a small workshop for fixing things. And it's, yes, it's 61 square meters versus the allowable of 40. But I do note that we hand delivered 21 packages of information showing the drawings, showing the reason for having this variance, and we did receive 4 letters of support, the Chairman mentioned earlier, and they are from the house immediately to the south that would be the one most affected, I would say. That's at number 1, can't read the drawing, but I believe 101. And to the north, 107, 109, and 111 to Grassy all signed the letter that we provided to them. And I think this is, although square footage is higher than the norm, there is no height variance, there's no side yard setback variance, and I would like to say that this is in keeping with the neighborhood, and I hope you would agree. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So, Mr. Higgins, what was the size of the existing garage and shed?
There were 3 of them, and they totaled 55 square meters in size. And they were also pretty awful looking. Neighbors had to put up with it, and we think this is a handsome, simple garage. And I think that's why there's been no opposition. There's still relief. The area with showing the shaded landscaping was taken up by a large garage, as well as the middle, and the southerly portion was very much a haphazard situation.
So was there space between these buildings, or were they all attached?
No, there was a small walking space of a couple of feet between each one.
So it
Yeah,
actually...
you can see the survey. If you scroll up, you can see the survey and you can see the existing condition.
Yeah. So it actually took up more than the 55 square meters you're talking about in terms of space.
Certainly, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, certainly visually they did, and what's missing there was the structure that had been that sat in the bottom right-hand corner, which would be the southeast corner. So we have a aluminum shed, a frame shed, and the other was a garage that was made of, it was almost like a tent structure, and it filled that entire southeast corner.
Okay. Panel, any further questions?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Any comments, or do we have a motion? Carl?
Mr. Chairman, unless my colleagues have any concerns, I think this is very straightforward and is clearly an improvement to the property and to the neighborhood. I'd like to move approval of the application without condition.
Thank you. Seconder? Aaron?
Yeah, I
in
agree
favor?
with Cal. I think the design of the roof is helpful as well to bring down the massing, even though it looks big on plan. Plus, it's aligning with the existing driveway, so it makes sense to me.
All right, thank you. All in favor? All right, you have your approval, Mr. Higgins. Thank you. Next item, number 9, 146 Beatrice Street. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing semi-detached dwelling by constructing a rear three-story addition with a rear terrace at the 3rd story. With this application, we have plans submitted by the applicant. We have a staff report from planning. We have support from 144 Beatrice Street in opposition. Well, we have support and opposition from the same address, so there must be, and the support is later, so I assume that the opposition disappeared.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I believe that second letter basically removes the opposition.
Yeah.
I think in the added piece, they indicated that they were removing their opposition.
Yes, okay, so let's deal with Mr. Lai.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Chair and committee. So yes, that's correct. We are building an addition to this house in the rear and mainly on the second and third floors. There was previous opposition mainly due to the construction from 144 Beatrice,
Right, so
which they've since removed as they have since now sold the house.
All right, Mr. Lay,
and-
Mr. Lay,
Yes.
could you just introduce yourself and give us your address?
Yes, sorry. My name is Derek, and I'm from Prop Architects, and my address is 38 Cameron Street in Toronto.
Yeah, we need a last name too.
Oh, Derek Lai.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, so the opposition has since been removed, and we believe this proposal of the addition in the rear is in keeping with the neighborhood. There are quite a few applications which go way beyond what we are requesting in our application here for the density that's requesting. And I do understand that there is a planning report requesting to have an opaque or permanent screen on either side of the terrace on the third floor to maintain the privacy on the north and west sides. And we will definitely go by their planning recommendations to provide that screen on either side.
Okay. Panel, do you have any questions? Okay, let's move on to Ms. Sampson.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Anne Elizabeth Sampson was connected, but they exited the meeting.
She what?
They exited the meeting. Do you
She
want me to
accidentally,
exited the meeting?
so can we get a hold of her, try and get
Do
a
you
hold
want
of
to
her?
try? Okay, give me 1 second. Hello, Anne, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, Ms. Sampson, are you ready to give us your position?
Sorry, on what?
This application at 146 Beatrice Street.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know you were going to call me. Yeah, I mean, this is a neighboring house. I'm in support. I was just curious about it.
All right. So, please give us your name and your address first, and then we'll deal with your concerns.
Okay, my name is Anne Elizabeth Sampson. I live at 142 Beatrice Street,
All right,
Toronto.
All right, so do you have any concerns about this application, or are you just listening in?
I just wanted to listen in.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, panel, Mr. Lay, I don't believe we need to get back to you because Ms. Sampson didn't raise any issues in opposition. Panel, do you have any comments, or do we have a motion?
I don't have any questions. I think what's being proposed is indeed reasonable and minor. There's no changes in the landscaping according to the site statistics. So although, so the landscaping represents an existing condition, one-story addition exists, they're making that a three-story. I would be supporting of the application subject to the planning conditions. And if there's no other comments from my colleagues, I would move a motion to approve subject to planning, the condition outlined in the planning report of April the 7th.
All right, thank you. Seconder? Carl, thank you. All in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you very much. Number 10, 336 Ontario Street. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing two-story semi-detached dwelling by converting the existing attic into a third story. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, a report from Urban Forestry, and support from 237 Seton and 338 Ontario Street. Ms. Kuhn?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Could you just introduce yourself and give us your address?
Yes, it's Monica Kuhn. I'm an architect. My address is 12 Sackville Place in Toronto.
Okay, so do you know what the existing floor space index is?
I do 0.97.
Okay. Panel, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, so thank you, Ms. Kuhn. We're going to move on to Mr. Bujak.
Hi, so I have a question.
All right,
because
Mr.
this is
Bujak, Mr. Bujak, before you ask your question, could you please introduce yourself and let us know your address?
Hi, so it's Matthew Bujak, and I'm at the neighbor directly south, 334 Ontario Street.
Are you part of the semi?
No, I'm separate.
Okay. All right. Could you then give us your concerns about this matter or your question?
So first of all, I had a question from the architect. Given that this is half of a semi-detached row house, there's another half. How would this change the roof line itself? I'm worried about the asymmetry that would result as of changing the roof line on one half of an existing roadhouse in an Edwardian neighborhood that has historical significance.
All right. Do you have any other questions before we go back to Ms. Kuhn?
The other question I have is, this is submitted as a minor variance. However, it increases the available square footage of the house by 50%. So I just have a question about how it's still considered a minor variance given that fact.
Okay. All right, Ms. All right. Does any panel member have any questions? All right. Let's go back to Ms. Kuhn. Ms. Kuhn?
Yep. Yes, I'm here now. You've unmuted me.
Yeah. So you heard those questions?
Yes. First of all, from a heritage point of view, we are not touching the front roof line at all. We worked closely with Heritage Preservation Services and have their approval. What we're doing is we are extending the roof of the pop-up addition flat from the peak back, and then we're going up. So the new Heritage District guidelines will have, which are not quite approved yet, but they will have some kind of comment about view angle from the opposite sidewalk, and we do meet that requirement. So there's no change at the front except for a small skylight. With regards to the floor area, we already, as you can see, there's quite a large attic over the front portion of the house that is not counted in GFA currently. So we're going to inhabit that now. And then we're adding, there's also a sloped roof at the back, which is shared with the neighbors. And so you can stand there, but it's only at the peak. dies off pretty quickly at the side. So what we're doing is popping that up. We're not increasing the floor area or the footprint of the building at all. And yeah, you can see there at the back where the old slope, where the existing slope roof is and where we're coming up. And we have approval from the attached neighbors. So you will not see this addition from the street at all.
Okay, and the floor space index?
Well, because we're inhabiting the roof space, it is another floor.
Okay. So, and it was uninhabitable before?
Well, right now it has just a pull down ladder, and it's open to the neighbor's roof. It's just one huge attic space, and as such, it wasn't counted in the GFA calculations from zoning.
Okay, so it's not really an addition, it's just opening up that space.
Yes, and then we're popping up the roof at the back.
Okay, thank you. Panel, do you have any questions? Carl?
I don't have any questions, Mr. Chairman. I'm prepared for a motion if my colleagues don't have any questions.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I think that this proposal is very reasonable. The impact is on the rear of the house. It doesn't affect the historical character of the streetscape as the architect had indicated. The only comment, and I don't believe that the floor space index that's being requested is unreasonable, given that a portion of it is within the existing attic space. My only comment would be in future when we have semi-detached buildings, it would be very helpful to have elevations of both halves of the building, because one of the things that we are evaluating is the impact on the community and the neighbors, and with an attached neighbor, it'd be useful to have a joint elevation. I don't have any difficulties with this particular solution. I think it's respectful of the attached building. I think it's consistent with the neighborhood. And I'd like to bring forward a motion of approval subject to forestry condition number 1.
Seconder? Aaron? Second? Okay. All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you very much. Number 11. 93 Greenwood Avenue. And the purpose of this application is to construct a detached garage in the rear of an existing two-story detached dwelling. With this application, we have materials submitted by the applicant, Kyle Kadra.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning. Could you introduce yourself and give us your address, sir?
Mr. Chair, my name is Kyle Kadra from KBK Architects. Address is 25 Shepherd Avenue West.
All right. Could you just speak up a little bit, Mr. Kadra?
I hope you can hear me better now, Mr.
Yes,
Chair.
we can. But having asked you to speak up, I'm not sure that we. Well, I think you better tell us about this, because there's somebody whose has some interest in. So I don't know whether they're opposed or they are not opposed. But just tell us about this application, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. In general, we're demolishing an existing garage and proposing a slightly larger garage to accommodate the vehicles. The original garage was pretty small that you cannot park a car in it, and because of that, this is triggering a variance for landscaping, and this is why we are here before you today. We are short on meeting the requirements of the landscaping. This area in Toronto, if you can, for example, take a look on Google satellite images, you'll see that many of the houses have hard surfaces and they don't have any soft landscaping in the backyards. We tried our best to adjust the size of the garage to maximize this landscaping. That pretty much summarizes it.
Okay, thank you very much. Panel, any questions? Okay, let's go to Ms. Khan.
Hey there, this is Majid Khan. So Chairman, we are 91 Greenwood Avenue.
Yes.
We just have a question. We just want to confirm that the garage will be in the same line as the existing fence, because they have just built up a fence, and I just want to confirm that the plan should follow. That is what is shown in this plan right now.
Okay, and do you have any
And
other?
also, I just want to just point out to you that the fence, the way it's showing is not correct right now. Right now, what it exists, they built the fence is going all the way back to the house where the house is starting. So I don't know whether this is something to consider.
All right,
So if you can zoom in.
All right, let's go back to Mr. Kadra. Can you deal with those points, Mr. Kadra?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I mean, what I can confirm is that, of course, the construction will be tied to this site plan. We're not proposing to make any changes other than what is proposed here before you. I'm not sure which fence Mr. Khan is referring to, Mr. Chair. So I would prefer to just
Well,
commit to
Mr. Khan is
yes,
at 91 Greenwood, so I assume it's the fence next, running along his property line.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just not sure on the drawings whether this fence is illustrated anywhere, Mr. Chair. Not sure.
Mr. Khan, can you help us out?
Yes. So if you can look at it where it's saying existing upper deck and existing middle deck, there's no fence there. But right now the fence is coming from right from the house all the way up to the existing fence at the corner, all the way down. So what I'm saying, in the plan it's showing the existing fence only on the lower deck, but right now the way they built it is all the way down. So I just want to confirm, because it doesn't look like according to the plan. I just want to confirm that when the garage will be built, it will follow what is shown in the site plan. Because my concern is that because they did not follow what is shown in the plan, that it might not, like, it may not be followed.
All right, Mr. Kadra?
And the fence that is I'm sorry, I was saying the deck and the fence currently on site was permitted in a separate application last year, and then this is an application that followed and which will affect and result in some changes in the positioning of the fence, I'm guessing. So yes, I'm comfortable to say yes, we are going to abide by the if approved, by whatever is depicted in our submission here today.
All right, thank you. Panel, do you have any questions? All right, thank you. Any comments, or do we have a motion?
Okay, I'll start. I think that the soft landscaping is not unprecedented in the neighborhood. If you look at the location map, there are many large rear structures in the neighborhood. I think that the site plan showing as the proposed site plan, they have attempted to maximize to the degree possible the area for soft landscaping. I don't think this is unprecedented, and I would be in support of the application. And if my colleagues have no further comment, I would propose to move a motion to approve the application, no conditions.
Carl? Is that a seconder, Carl? Are you
Yes, yes it is, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you. Number 12, 24 Brooklyn Avenue, and the purpose of this application is to,
Sorry, Mr. Chair, just to bring to your attention, there's also one interested party that's not on the list for this file.
an interested party not on the list for, oh, number 12. Okay, all right. All right, so the purpose of this application is to alter the existing two-story detached dwelling by constructing a third-story addition, a new front covered porch, a new third-story balcony, a new rear deck, and performing minor alterations. And with this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. We have support, an 8-signature petition in support, and correspondence and interest or concern from 3 Blong Avenue. So Nilufar Atri,
Hi, sir.
hi. Could you introduce yourself and give us your address, please?
Yes, it's Nilu Atri. I'm the designer and the applicant of this application for 24 Brooklyn Avenue.
Okay, and, okay, so it's pretty straightforward at this point, but apparently there's another speaker, so you better tell us something about this property.
Sure. Yeah, as you said, I believe it's pretty straightforward application, and the only thing we ask for is the number of the index. So right now it's a 1-story bungalow sitting at 0.53 as the index, and you're just increasing it by 0.22, so the total of 75. And we are moving the garage, so the existing garage is very small for the family of 4, so we're just moving it to the back of the property and make it a bigger, sorry, and that's all.
Okay. All right, panel, any questions? Okay, can we move on to the next speaker? Could you give me the name?
Mr. Chair, the speaker is Jean Whistler.
Okay,
Jean, you're unmuted.
all right.
Oh, hello?
Hello, could you please introduce yourself and tell us your address?
My name is Jean Whistler. I'm getting a lot of feedback. I have
I'm sorry.
no objection.
Maybe you should mute your computer first and then.
Yeah, we're getting feedback. We can't hear you.
How's that?
Hi, Jean. If you have another device playing the hearing in the background that might be causing an echo.
No, nothing. Oh, wait a minute. Let me.
Are you talking to us on speakerphone?
Hello?
Hello, how's that?
That's better. Thank you. Could you give us your name and your address again, because we didn't catch it?
Okay, my name is Jean Whistler at 3 Plum. I have no objection. We only requested that the lane may not be blocked by construction vehicles.
Well, unfortunately,
And I got a response.
All right, madam, I'm sorry, but we don't deal with construction issues. We're only
Yeah,
dealing with,
I was told that, so I'm surprised to ask for my input. I have no objection.
okay, thank you very much. All right, panel, so, Ms. Attree, we don't need to come back to you because there was no objection. Panel, do you have any comments?
Mr. Chairman, the only comment or question I would have of the applicant is there doesn't appear to be any screening around the deck that I can see. And I'm wondering if there would be support on his or her part for screening around the deck at the back.
Ms. Attry?
Yes, sure, yeah, there will be. We are gonna provide railings, and the deck is not that big though. They want to keep the soft landscaping of the backyard, so we might even go with a smaller deck, but we for sure gonna have screening and a railing all around the deck.
Okay. Carl, did you want to specify what kind of screening or how high?
Well, it seems to me that the deck on the deck has potentially conflict with the properties on both sides, and just the railing itself wouldn't provide any kind of visual screening. I'm wondering if we might have the standard 1.5 meter opaque screening on the I need the directions on the north and the south side of the deck, on the edges of the deck on the north and the south side.
Ms. Attry, is that acceptable?
Yeah, sure. So if you can just explain it one more time, your point. I'm not sure if I got that.
Certainly. The concern being that the properties on either side can be impacted by the activities on the deck. It's difficult because we don't have site plans of all three properties, but it seems to me that there's a privacy issue to the north and the south, potentially a privacy issue. And it would make sense, in my view, to consider putting a 1.5 meter opaque screen, so something you can't see through, to prevent the people on the deck overlooking the properties to the north and to the south.
Yeah, sure. And also, yeah, there's fence all around, right? So that would also like keep that privacy for others, for the neighbors. But yeah, for sure, I can provide that to you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just clarify, are you only speaking of screening on the upper level walkout, Carl?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Carl, do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I don't have any other difficulties with this application. My only concern was with the screening of the upper level deck. And as Joanne has indicated, I should be very specific there. I'd bring forward a motion of approval for the application with only one condition, and that is that the upper level deck be screened on the north and the south edges with a 1.5 meter opaque screen. And I just want to make sure that that makes sense on the drawing. Is it possible to pull the drawing up with the deck on it?
And that's for the rear third floor deck, right?
That's right, yes. I apologize if I'm having difficulty hearing you. It's nothing to do with the actual meeting. We have construction going on next door. And when they're drilling, I can hardly hear anything. And that's the reason I was late in joining the meeting, because they disconnected something. So my apologies.
Okay, Carl, so I'm not sure you finished your motion.
No, I have, that's fine. But my only condition was screening of the balcony. Otherwise, I believe that what is being proposed is reasonable. There is quite a mixture of house styles and heights and forms on the street. It's a very interesting eclectic street, and I think that what is being proposed is consistent with that kind of variety.
All right, thank you. Do we have a seconder of the motion? Aaron, thank you. All in favor? Have your approval. Thank you. Number 13, 108 Ashburnham Road. And the purpose of this application is to alter the existing two-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a rear two-story dwelling. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant and 3 form letters in support. And Mr. Gilbert, Mr. Anderson.
Yes, hello.
Hi. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Can't hear with the construction.
Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, my name is Joel Anderson, and I'm representing the owners of 108 Ashburnham. I think this is fairly straightforward, but I can give a brief presentation if the committee would like.
I don't
See some
think.
heads shaking.
Yeah, I don't think we need a presentation. I think this is very straightforward. Panel, do you have any questions, or do we have a motion?
No.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Sure, through you, Chair, I would like to move to approve the application. I believe that the increase in FSI from 0.69 to 0.71 is indeed minor and appropriate, and it meets the tests under the Planning Act. That would be my motion.
All right, thank you. Seconder, Carl, all in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you very much. Number 14, 40 Hannaford Street. Purpose of this application is to alter the existing 3-story detached dwelling by building a rear 1-story addition and a rear 2nd floor deck over the proposed 1-story addition, along with interior alterations. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, correspondence and support from 15 and 36 Hannaford Street. Mr. Smith.
Morning, Mr. Chair. Jay Smith, agent for 40 Hannaford Street, 2814 Hollington Crescent, Mississauga.
Yeah, this looks like a, this looks like a repeat of the last application we had, so I don't believe we need a presentation. Panel, do you have any questions of Mr. Smith? Do you have a motion?
Chair, I had to go back and look twice. I went, wait a minute, am I on the right application?
Exactly.
I would move to approve the application if my colleagues have no further comments or questions. The FSI is indeed minor, and I believe that what is being proposed is appropriate and meets the tests under the Planning Act.
Carl?
Yes?
We're on 40 Hannaford Street, and Joanne's just made a motion for approval. This is a...
Yeah, I could hear it. I'm trying to block the noise from the construction from the window. I'm sorry, but I heard Joanne and I heard the presentation. Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right, do we have a seconder? Aaron, thank you. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you.
Chair, could we have 5 minutes?
You read my mind. Yes, 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we're now at number 15, 1997 Danforth Avenue. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing two-story mixed-use building by constructing a one-story addition above the existing building and a rear three-story addition to create 3 additional residential units. The building will contain a total of 4 residential units and 1 commercial unit on the ground floor. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. We have correspondence and concern or interest from 1993 Danforth in opposition, well, opposition from the same people, but the interest and concern was later, so I assume they're not opposed. I don't know that for sure. But so Lynn Houston, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. This is Lynn Houston. I'm at 49 Oakcrest Avenue.
Thank you. So perhaps you could just give us a very, very brief idea of what this is about.
Okay, this is an existing building. The owner would like to remove a small and very bad addition at the back and put a larger addition on to create more rental suites on the property.
Okay. No parking, no parking now, I assume?
Pardon?
I assume there's no parking?
No, that's the variance we're asking for, is to remove the parking. We are a 3-minute walk from the subway.
Okay. So there is parking now?
For the commercial unit.
Okay.
So those two parking spaces shown are the requirement.
That's why, okay.
So we're asking to remove the rental residential parking.
Okay. All right. Panel, do you have any questions? All right.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I had the same question that you just had. I didn't understand where it says that there's 0 parking, but it's 0 parking for the residential. There are 2 parking spaces provided at the back of the property on the main floor, underneath the, or on grade, I believe.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any further questions, or do we have a motion?
Through you, Chair, I just want to make a comment that there was submissions of a sort of a transcript or a notation of a meeting that was held with 1993. Many of the things that are spoken to in those minutes are not things that the committee can deal with. Having said that, though, it's nice that the communication occurred. I think the variances as proposed are appropriate. I have no concern with respect to the parking variance related to the residential units. As noted, this is in very close proximity to transit and a subway stop, and I would be in support of this application. And if my colleagues have no further comment, that would be my motion to approve with no conditions.
All right. Thank you. Seconder, Carl, all in favor of your approval? Thank you. Number 16 is 119 Hampton Avenue, and the purpose of this application is to alter the existing single detached dwelling by constructing a covered front porch at the ground floor. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, and we have 10 form letters in support. Mr. Smith?
Morning, Mr. Chair. Jay Smith, agent for 119 Hampton. My address is 2814 Hollington Crescent, Mississauga.
Yeah, could we have a brief presentation? We have somebody in support or interest, but we better have a short presentation.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. We are putting in a new front porch to span the width of the existing dwelling. The depth of the front yard is very shallow, so we are trying to create enough space so that the owners can sit on the porch. We have kept the stairs to the minimum size for building code in order to create as much soft landscape area as possible. And the units beside it at 121 and 123 Hampton have a full front porch in a similar design, as well as directly across the road at 114 and 116, again, full front porch. It is something that is common in the neighborhood, but I believe it's a minor variance. But the landscape area is a little, out of whack, but that is mostly due to the very small front yard. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Panel, any questions? All right.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Could the applicant indicate or tell us what the existing front yard soft landscaping is?
The existing soft landscaping is sitting at 53%, and we will be going down to 41.4%.
And that's because of your veranda is slightly larger, right?
That's right. That's right. They are removing some hard landscape paving area, which is currently there, which the new porch will cover. So yes, it is entirely due to the existing front porch. Everything else will be soft landscaping.
And my second question has to do with the side elevation indicates that there's a privacy screen. Is there a privacy screen on both sides of the porch?
There is not currently, but the owners would be happy if that was a condition of committee.
But you've got them shown on the side elevation. Can you go to the side elevation?
That is currently on the, just let me grab the direction. That is currently on the south side. We don't have one planned for the north side, but again, we are happy to put one there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Smith, variance number 3 indicates that you're asking for 41% of the required front yard landscape open space will be in the form of soft landscaping. You indicated in your comment that it was 41.4%. So is it 41.4 or 41?
It's 41%, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. All right, can we now go to Mr. James Hathaway?
James, can you hear us? You're unmuted.
Is he there? Mr. Hathaway? He's not there.
30 seconds remaining.
What's that? So, okay, so we're not gonna, so we have to go on, move on. Okay, Mr. Smith, we can't raise Mr. Hathaway, so we're going into committee. Committee, do you have any comments, or do we have a motion?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe what's being proposed, is appropriate. The front yards on Hampton are quite shallow. I don't think what's being proposed here is going to have any negative, impact on the streetscape or the character of the neighborhood. And if there are no further comments from my colleagues, my motion would be to approve the application with no conditions.
What about the condition Mr. Nepfeld suggested with screening on the, I think it was the north side of the porch?
I'd be prepared to add that to the motion.
Is that satisfactory, Carl?
That's fine, thank you. Pleased to second the motion.
All right, thank you. All in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you very much. Number 17, 124 Morrison Avenue. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing two-story semi-detached dwelling by converting the existing rear sunroom into a dining area and altering the northern and western facades. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. Miri Darban, please. Hello, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me right now?
Yeah, but we're getting echo. Do you have another device on?
No. No, just one is the laptop.
We can't hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, but we still need you to speak up a little bit.
It's good now? Sorry.
Yes, it's fine now. Could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Mehri Darban from Sabat Architect. We are, our address is 370 Estes Avenue West, City of One. Actually, we are proposing a dining area in the location of the existing sunroom. As per zoning notice, we are increasing the space index from 0.69, which is permitted in that area, to 0.86.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so do you know what the existing floor space index is?
The existing, the space is 122.16 square meter, but with adding this addition, we are reaching to 151.49 square meter actually.
Yeah. But do you know what the existing floor space index is now?
No, actually, I think, no, I don't know.
Okay.
Because they mentioned the maximum space index, which is allowed here, is 0.69.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to Zoriana Duxak.
Hello,
Yes.
my name is Zoriana Duchuk, address 24 Cannon Road.
Right.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
My concern, I guess, in the application, it says there will be alteration to the western facade. I own the building next door at 126 Morrison. What I'd like is, from what I see on the plans, is that there's 2 doors on the west side, and it'll be converted to 1 window and 1 door. I got that. What I'd like confirmation of is that the western wall will not be expanded out so that it, you know, goes closer to property line, that it is actually the existing wall. I guess I didn't know what they meant by alteration of the facade.
Okay, so that's your only question?
Pretty much, yes.
Okay. Ms. Darban, could you?
Actually, we are not adding any new member in the both side elevation. Actually, we have two doors. We are making just one door, and one door we are replacing to the window, not adding anything. And just for the back elevation, we are replacing the wall, the existing wall. If you can see in the picture as well, we are replacing the existing walls to the new structure wall, and there is an opening. We are just putting the door, siding door in that area.
Okay. Is that okay, Ms. Duxta?
Whoops. I assumed so, that is confirmation that it won't be an expansion outwards.
Okay.
Westwise.
All right, thank you.
That's right.
All right, panel, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, do you have any comments, or do we have a motion? Carl?
Mr. Chairman, I think this is a very straightforward application that has very minor impact on, if any, on adjacent properties of the neighborhood. It's a very minor addition at the back of a property. It doesn't affect the streetscape, and as the last person speaking questioned, it doesn't affect, the building doesn't become closer to the east or the west. I think that the proposal is reasonable. I think it's consistent with the neighborhood and the character, and I don't have any difficulties with it. I'd like to move approval of the application with without condition.
All right, thank you. Do we have a seconder? Aaron, thank you. All in favor? Have your approval, thank you. Number 18, 200 Rosemary Road. Purpose of this application is to construct an outdoor swimming pool in the rear yard of the existing three-story detached house. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. Mr. Broders.
I am here.
Yes, thank you. Please introduce yourself and give us your address.
My name is Edward Broders. I'm at 2191 Yonge Street, apartment 2708, M4H3HD.
Okay, just a very brief presentation with respect to this matter. Just putting in a swimming pool.
That's correct.
Yeah. And you need some relief from a side lot and landscaping.
Yes.
Okay.
3%.
So, all right, panel, do you have any questions? Oh, yes, Carl?
I wonder, could you clarify on the site plan, you've got a planting bed that provides a visual screen between the street, Ardmore Road, and the swimming pool, but the planting bed, which is L-shaped, appears to be totally on the road allowance. Have you received approval for that planting? Is because it's beyond the property line as far as I can see.
This is existing. The house was built around 2013 and went to committee. I'm not sure.
My only I assume there's no problem. My only reason for asking is that the ability of the swimming pool to integrate into the streetscape is largely dependent on that planting. And the planting is on the public boulevard. And I assume that it's either there by right because it's always been there or you got an approval for it. I just wanted a clarification.
I can confirm, but I believe it has. That house was designed by a reputable architect in the city. So I believe it is.
So Carl, I just want to add that in the Google photo, you can see that there's no sidewalk on this street. And
that's right.
It's all landscape. So probably someone there, yeah.
So they probably took the initiative to put it on, and it obviously isn't creating any difficulties. Thank you very much.
All right, panel, any comments, or do we have a motion? Joanne?
No, I have no comment. I would be prepared to move a motion. I think that what's being proposed is indeed minor. The change in the lot, being a corner lot, the impact of the reduction in the side yard here is not impactful to neighbor, and I believe it's appropriate. And that would be my motion if my colleagues have no further question or comments.
Do we have a seconder? Carl, thank you. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you. Next application is 13 Hawken Avenue, and the purpose of this application is to construct a 3-story semi-detached house in a rear yard 2-story ancillary building containing an undersized parking space and a laneway suite. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. We have correspondence from Transportation Services, staff reports from engineering, urban forestry. We have one form letter in support from 15 Hawken. We have correspondence in opposition from other various addresses on Hawken Avenue. Marin Zabzuni.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Marin Zabzuni at 1140 the Queensway.
Okay, perhaps you can give us a presentation, sir. There's lots of opposition here.
Yes, happy to. So the subject property at 13 Hawken Avenue is located west of Vaughan Road and south of St. Clair Avenue West, about 600 meters from the Bathurst West subway station and a short distance from St. Clair Avenue West streetcar. To give you a brief history on this application, as we have been working on this project over 2 years, we met with city planning about 2 years ago in person in the city hall and have continued correspondence and updates to the drawings since last year. We submitted the latest drawings and zoning notice to the application technician around June 2020, and we're eagerly waiting for a hearing date. We actually received a notice months later that the application was canceled as they stated that no correspondence was received from us. We actually found out that the application technician no longer worked there when we sent out our latest update in June, and we never received any automatic reply to indicate this. So there was quite an unfortunate incident that caused us to reapply for committee and added a significant delay to this project. But anyways, here we are with this application. We have worked heavily with city planning in order to make adjustments and bring this project to you to what you see today. And I'm happy to go over the variances that we're proposing, starting with items 1 and 2.
All right, please do.
Which is, pardon?
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, which is the proposed main wall height at 11.17 meters, where the maximum is 9.5 meters. We're not the only proposal in this area to ask for this variance. There is a large tree at the front of the house, providing a lot of privacy and coverage, and the 3rd floor is actually pushed back at both the front and rear of the home. We worked with city planning to reduce the massing here, in order to make sure that from street view, from what you actually see, that the home looks more like a 2.5-story rather than a big 3-story massing. So, and the application doesn't meet the maximum height, building height requirement, as it's below the 12-meter height. In regards to item number 3, this is very straightforward for building depth. So the building depth is measured to the edge of the cold room located beneath the rear deck. That's where this variance is triggered. The ground and second floor are proposed at only 17.68 meters, and the third floor is reduced to 15.25 meters, which is centralized in the building envelope. So that's the reason for the depth variance, is due to the space under the rear deck. In regards to item number 4, the gross floor area, it is in our opinion that this house is in the context of established homes in the neighborhood and recent approvals. We did send out a summary of approvals. Not sure if it went through due to the time limits or deadlines, but I do have it in front of me and happy to discuss comparables. In terms of item number 5, the request for a variance for rear yard soft landscaping. Essentially, we are proposing a laneway home. This has been encouraged even by city planning, that it's something to promote, and this does requires some 3-meter emergency walk through from front of the house towards the back in case it's ever needed for safety. That requires some pavement. We need some pavement for bins and bicycle storage. So we try to add as much green space as possible. And something that we discussed with city planning, we actually added a green roof on top of the laneway house in order to promote more green space overall. So we hope that you find that satisfactory. And then item number 6 is more to the parking width space. It's a narrow lot, so we put in just enough of what the homeowner needed in terms of width. But keep in mind, for a laneway home, we do not require parking generally if we have bicycle racks. So this is more of an add-on, and I believe it's very minor to request this. And as stated, we've worked quite extensively with city planning. We believe this proposal does meet the general development in the area. We did get support from our immediate neighbor on 15 Hawken, and then the owner discussed this proposal with the other immediate neighbor, and there was no opposition. The other neighbors of the concerning parties, the letters were received. They're further down the street. I don't believe this proposal will have impact on them. And again, the front of the house is covered by a large tree that's going to be existing. And that's our presentation. The laneway house, I believe, has a lot of support in general. And then the home, I understand there were some concerns, but I believe based on its merits that it's still reasonable and meets the 4 test.
So, Mr. Zabzuni, which one is the attached or semi-attached house, 11 or 15?
11.
Okay, and so you don't have a written approval from them?
We don't have any letters, whether it's for support or opposition, but the homeowner has spoken with them heavily, and actually we are proposing a party wall for the laneway house, as the neighbors at 11 Hawken want the ability to propose a laneway home of their own in the future and wanted to maximize space. So that's the reason you see a party wall there, and that cannot be done without their support or consent during the permit application. So there was discussions with that heavily for the last 2 years, and yeah, they don't have any opposition against that.
Okay, thank you. Panel, any questions? Yes, Carl?
this may be pertinent to the last point that you just made, but it looks to me, at least on the site plan drawing, that the laneway house, both on the main floor and the second floor, extends beyond the property line. Is that just because of the party wall that you were talking to, or am I misreading the drawing?
Mr. Zapsuni? Did we lose him?
Hello, Mr. Zabzuni?
Did you get that response? I was speaking. I was sorry. I didn't know that.
No.
What I was saying, I'll repeat it. Yes, that is correct. The party wall is on the neighbor's property, and it's something that the client, the homeowner, and the neighbor discussed.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay, let's move on to Mr. Solomons, or Miss Solomons.
Through you, Mr. Chair, attempts were made to contact Paul and Josephine Solomons, but we couldn't reach them.
Can't reach them? Okay. Fernando Dutar.
Yep, hello there, committee. My name's Fernando Dutar. I'm representing my mom at 93 Hampton Avenue, which is quite a ways from the property, as the applicant had mentioned. With that being said, though, this is a semi-detached, and I don't know if two of the four members today recall a meeting on March 17th for the proposal for, 95 Hampton, which was a semi-detached as well. But basically, the proposal of a third floor on a semi-detached home is something that is very, it doesn't represent the area well. It's aesthetically pleasing. When you have a lopsided semi-detached, this property that we're talking about as well, 13 Hampton, unlike a lot of the homes on Hampton, they actually have a large piece of land off to the side, which could more than likely be used to construct and not cause this lopsided effect. So I'm wondering why they didn't choose to go to the side rather than impacting someone else's roof and stuff. In my opinion, because of the aesthetics of the neighborhood, etc., I don't find this to be an appropriate change to the development of the site itself, the neighborhood, and it does set a dangerous precedence for the neighborhood of the semi-attached homes that would then have the possibility of being granted approval in the future, when in the past, at least from the precedent set on the March 17th one, which the committee needs the case number, it was A0957-20TEY, which was denied for the reason of it being, unappeasing to the neighborhood when you have a lopsided semi-detached home.
All right, thank you, sir. Panel, any questions?
And sorry, just one last thing. I would like to point out that there are 7 objections, while there's only the one neighbor who has really provided any kind of approval.
Yes, thank you. Carl, did you have a question?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Eric Zoni.
Hi there. No, I'm just here to listen in. I'm a resident, but it's a lot of square FSI. It's a lot over, but I'm in favor of laneway housing and intensification. So no, I don't have any objections.
Okay, thank you. Mary Kruk.
Oh?
Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
You can hear me now?
Yes?
Thank you for taking the time to listen, and I hope you're all staying safe and well. I live at 45 Hawkins, and I object to this. None of the requested variances are minor. and they go far beyond the limits currently enforced in the bylaws for this size of lot. The proposal is in no way or intent what should be allowed for a semi-detached property on this lot. The height and size of the proposed three-story house would greatly exceed that of the existing houses on Hawken Avenue. The variances, when taken in totality, add up to a massive contravention of the bylaws. Most properties on Hawken Avenue are approximately 20 feet wide by 120 feet long, with modest homes, small front and back gardens, and laneway parking. The proposed house would overpower the existing houses, especially the semi-detached house next door, and change the appearance of the street. It would be substantially longer than what is allowed, and the proposed floor space would be grossly over the limit allowed by the bylaw, almost double. The construction of a second two-story house on our narrow laneway would not be in keeping with our neighborhood. The small lots on Hawken Avenue contain single dwellings. Parking spaces on Hawken Avenue are already scarce, and we need the parking spaces at the rear of our properties. The proposed two-story building on the laneway would block sunlight that is essential for the back gardens and the enjoyment of the residents of neighboring properties. The area of soft landscaping required by the bylaws is crucial for environmental reasons. The proposed reduction would result in a minimal area to absorb rainfall and a greater amount of runoff. The proposed green roofs on the two buildings do not in any way compensate for the loss of soft landscaping. Hawken Avenue is a one-block street with a unique identity and a homogeneous appearance. If allowed, this proposal would set a dangerous precedent and change the character of our street and the neighborhood in a negative way. Now, I have some extra points for the committee. Some of the houses on Hawken Avenue date back to the late 1800s. The newer houses blended in with the older houses and respected the character of the street. This is the first proposal in many years that contains plans to demolish an existing house and replace it with a new, gigantic build. The rising real estate market makes it more attractive for developers to buy old houses and replace them with the largest house they can get permission to build without care or concern for what is good for the neighborhood. Hawken Avenue is at a crossroads. What happens at 13 Hawken Avenue will affect all future development on the street. Many of the residents on Hawken Avenue have lived here for a long time and are very concerned about what could happen to the street they call home. We need to know that the zoning bylaws and the official plan will be respected. New and renovated houses should comply with all the bylaws and be compatible with existing houses. In the case of 13 Hawken Avenue, the developer could have complied with the bylaws, but chose instead to push for what could only be called major variances regarding height, depth, floor area, soft landscaping, and parking. By way of comparison, the footprint of the secondary building alone is larger than the footprint of my entire house, and it is a detached home. This is over and above the size and floor area of the massive, overbuilt, semi-detached house proposed for the front of the property. We are asking the Committee of Adjustment to carefully consider the magnitude and number of variances, major variances requested, and reject this proposal. If a proposal like this is allowed to go forward, then there is no protection for homeowners. It would almost be akin if you piled up 3 out-of-commission railway cars and you didn't care about anyone else. Thank you, committee members, for hearing me and listening to our concerns, which are so real. We're unique. People go to Europe and everywhere to look at older establishments. Please do not, I'm sorry to use this word, but bastardize our street. Thank you so much. Do you have questions for me?
All right, panel, any questions? Yes.
Sorry, forgot to note. Yes, hi, hello. I just want to ask you about the building across 15 Hampton Avenue.
Across?
Yeah, so is pretty, so in the map over here is shown as 18. Because you were talking about the streetscape of this area, and to be honest with you, I always pass by this area because I have to go to St. Clair and office. And I understand your concern, but it seems like there has been already some relatively modern or contemporary building happening in the street. And like right across 15, there is a glass, almost like a, you know, glass and wood and brick building, and the scale and the size is about, and the density is about the same as what the applicant is asking for. So can you tell me more about this building across, why they were there, and how would that be different than changing Auckland Avenue?
I'm not quite sure which one you mean, but if it's the one that has a door on the outside, I don't know what that is. It seems to be a studio and not part of the original house. We got no notices when this was going to be built, so I could have contact with another neighbor, but I've seen people go in and out and they've taken pictures, like photography inside, and I myself have tried to find out from City Hall, but no one returns my call. No one returned my calls, or I was unable. If you can tell me who I can go to find out, I will surely do it.
Yeah, because that looks like a multiple residential unit to me, but thank you for your information.
As far as I know, it's only one family.
One family,
but I can find that out for you.
That's fine, that's fine. I just wanted to know.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, all right, thank you so much.
Anyone else with questions?
All right, Ms. Crock, thank you very much. Ms. McDonald?
Yes. Gay McDonald from 41 Hawken. Are you able to hear me clearly?
We can hear you.
Yep.
Terrific. Thank you very much. The neighbors who have spoken before, I concur with many of their points, so I'll do my best not to be repetitive. I also believe that you've had the opportunity of reading our objections fully. So what I really want to drive home, actually, Aaron, I think I can answer your question about 18. My understanding is that it is a severed property from the Ellsworth home that it backs onto, and that preceded things like laneway housing. So it is an independent home. And yes, you're right. What you see, it's modern in its structure. So it is one of only 3 homes on the north side of Hawken Avenue. And that's really what I want to share with you is, again, I'll reiterate that Hawken is a unique street. And although it is marketed as a part of the Witchwood area, which has really beautiful streets with treed streets with homes on both sides, and people sit in front of their homes on their porches and speak across the road to their neighbors. We are different and we love our street, but we face garages for the most part, other than those 3 homes. And as a result of that, we are a very busy street from a traffic perspective. So we have the street of Hawken is a bit of a when drivers are trying to shortcut around St. Clair, they tend to use Hawken. This is a very busy street, and so we are quite protective of what goes on here and in our laneway, because families in the laneways in the backs of our houses is where we tend to do our living. We don't spend time out on the front of our street. We are, I listened earlier today when Carl Nickel was saying, you were talking about design solutions. You were talking about the prevailing character of the neighborhood. And while we definitely want very much some of the homes on the newer homes coming into Hawken, we do encourage taking homes that aren't in terrific shape and doing positive things with them that will help us build the character of the neighborhood, maintain it and retain it and make it even better. When I look at the design of the front of this house and how it will impact both the neighborhood and the immediate number 11, it is incongruous, it is dwarfing, it is representative to us of the things we are fighting hard to keep out of here. We respect a modern home. This seems massive in its size and scope, in addition to the actual massing on the street, on the lot. As you heard earlier, it is a slightly larger lot on this street. The houses and the lots on this street are smaller than the others all around it, which is part of its uniqueness. I did want to bring forward the fact that in 2019, we had a ruling with a TLAB case, and I know that you don't all have the opportunity to get up to each of the streets that you're going to be investigating or hearing about, but because it was in fact a TLAB opportunity, the panel member, Mr. Gopakrishna, did come up to our street, and he spoke in his ruling when he denied the massing of the home at 43 Hawken. He listened to the things that we are telling you, that we are sharing with you now, and he said that he noted how the key expressions of experience and enjoying are to the definition of a neighborhood, that the opposition made it clear that they enjoyed their backyards and experienced their street differently from the other streets nearby, such as Ellsworth and Alsina. The visual difference between experiencing Hawken Avenue versus the neighboring streets is stark, based on both the narrative of the neighbors as well as my own site visit. So I'm hoping that might give you some feeling for what this street is. It is a unique cat unto itself. We all love it who live here. We want new neighbors to come on, but we respectfully request that the visual integrity be maintained and lessened to what is being put forward here today.
Any questions? All right. Mr. Kish?
Well, I just want to say thank you for answering my question, and
You're welcome.
a very interesting description. I like how you describe the quality of life in this neighborhood.
And we want our new neighbors to, have you ever been to a street and you drive on it and you think, oh, why did that house get built? And sometimes people who move into it say, yeah, it is too much. We want our new neighbors to understand the street, and until you've lived on it, it's hard to understand it. But it's a wonderful street.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald. Mr. Kish?
Yes, I am supporting the other objectors to this project. I live at 52 Helena Avenue, and I can see that in the future, the laneway development will impact all of us in this neighborhood, Helena and Hawken. There is, but I see the building of the apartment above the garage is going to extend into the laneway by quite a bit. This variance will allow nobody to be able to drive up and down that laneway without meeting an opposite vehicle. Right now, people are parking on their pads and they are having problems with getting their cars in and out and around this area. The laneway itself suffers in the wintertime because of the snowfall. There is nowhere to put the snow. You have ruts and huge ruts that appear. Nobody maintains that laneway, and this will cause another impact for people there. In addition, you have the laneway itself. It is terribly constructed. There is no room for runoff of water. And in addition, to build these laneway houses and hook them in to the front residence, you'll have sewage going into the main sewers. We've already had to disengage our eave troughs. We've had houses on Helena Avenue that have been flooded in their basements when there are flash rainstorms. And this is just going to cause more and more problems. This is not a road, it is an alley. And affordable housing is important. We have it on both ends of our street in our neighborhood. We have 1400 Bathurst Street. We also have the Artscape, Witchwood Barns, which has live-work space. So increasing the density of this street and this laneway is going to impact us directly. And I just want to add the point that what we're looking at is laneway development. And laneway development is being looked at in a horizontal plane. Actually, it is really vertical. And what happens is that you build an apartment building by building it horizontally. If you take 4 or 5 people and they want a laneway development, what's going to happen is that's one floor. And if you go down the street and everybody puts in a laneway development, you build a skyscraper. And that is not what's needed in this area. This is a living, breathing neighborhood, and building this type of structure will help to destroy it eventually. Because people will say, well, there's one, I want to build one. So I'm definitely opposed it. On this weekend, I was out there, and the people who share that laneway are families who walk with their children in buggies, kids learning to ride their bicycles. There's basketball courts. It's also a place where people share each other and enjoy each other. We have an efficiency in parkland in this area, and somehow or another, the laneways have made up for it. And to remove that, you've removed an essential part of living here. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time you've given me, and I'll cede my time to the next speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, can we go back to the applicant?
Through you, Chair. Just before we go back to the applicant, we're going to take 2 minutes to switch over the YouTube live stream. For those watching on YouTube, the stream is going to end in a moment, and you're going to see a new stream pop up, AM Part 2. That's where we'll resume this, okay? Just 1 second.